Quote, another body of secret law is the controlling interpretations of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act that was issued by the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. FISA, of course, is the law that governs government's ability in intelligence investigations to conduct wiretaps and search the homes of people in the United States. Under the statute, the FISA court is directed to evaluate wiretap and search warrant applications and decide whether the standard for issuing a warrant has been met. A largely factual evaluation that is properly done behind closed doors. But with the evolution of technology and with this administration's efforts to get the court's blessings for its illegal wiretapping activities, we now know that the court's role is broader and that it is very much engaged in substantive interpretations of the governing statute. These interpretations are as much a part of this country's surveillance law as the statute itself. Without access to them, it is impossible for Congress or the public to have an informed debate on matters that deeply affect the privacy and civil liberties of all Americans. Quote, the administration's shroud of secrecy extends to agency rules and executive pronouncements, such as executive orders that carry the force of law. Through the diligent efforts of my colleague, Senator Whitehouse, we have learned that the Office of Legal Counsel has taken the position that a president can waive or modify a published executive order without any notice to the public or Congress, simply by not following it. End of quote from Senator Feingold. In all these actions and decisions, President George W. Bush has acted in a manner contrary to his trust as President and Commander-in-Chief and subversive of constitutional government, to the prejudice and cause of law and justice, and to the manifest injury of the people of the United States of America. Wherefore, President George W. Bush, by such conduct, is guilty of an impeachable offense, warranting removal from office. Article 23, violation of the Posse Comitatus Act. In his conduct while President of the United States, George W. Bush, in violation of his constitutional oath to faithfully execute the office of President of the United States, and to the best of his ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of his constitutional duty under Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, has both personally and acting through his agents and subordinates repeatedly and illegally established programs to appropriate the power of the military for use in law enforcement. Specifically, he has contravened United States Code Title 18, Section 1385, originally enacted in 1878, subsequently amended as, quote, use of Army and Air Force as Posse Comitatus, unquote, and commonly known as the Posse Comitatus Act. The Act states, quote, whoever, except in cases and under circumstances expressly authorized by the Constitution or Act of Congress, willfully uses any part of the Army or the Air Force as a Posse Comitatus or otherwise to execute the laws shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 2 years or both. The Posse Comitatus Act is designed to prevent the military from becoming a national police force. The Posse Comitatus Act is designed to prevent the military from becoming a national police force. The Declaration of Independence states as a specific grievance against the British that the King had, quote, kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislators, had, quote, affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power, and had quartered large bodies of armed troops among us, protecting them by mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, unquote. Despite the Posse Comitatus' act's intent, and in contravention of the law, President Bush, A, has used military forces for law enforcement purposes on the U.S. Border Patrol, B, has established a program to use military personnel for surveillance and information on criminal activities, C, is using military espionage equipment to collect intelligence information for law enforcement use on civilians within the United States, D, employs active duty military personnel in surveillance agencies, including the Central Intelligence Agency. In June 2006, President Bush ordered National Guard troops deployed to the border shared by Mexico with Arizona, Texas, and California. This deployment, which by 2007 reached a maximum of 6,000 troops, had orders to, quote, conduct surveillance and operate detection equipment, work with border entry identification teams, analyze information, assist with communications, and give administrative support to the Border Patrol, unquote, and concerned, quote, providing intelligence, inspecting cargo, conducting surveillance. The Air Force's Eagle Eyes program encourages Air Force military staff to gather evidence on American citizens. Eagle Eyes instructs Air Force personnel to engage in surveillance and then advises them to alert local authorities, asking military staffs to surveil and gather evidence on public citizens. This contravenes Department of Defense Directive 5525.5, subject DoD cooperation with civilian law enforcement, which limits such activities. President Bush has implemented a program to use imagery from military satellites for domestic law enforcement through the National Applications Office. President Bush has assigned numerous active duty military personnel to civilian institutions such as the CIA and Department of Homeland Security, both of which have responsibilities for law enforcement and intelligence. In addition, on May 9, 2007, President Bush released National Security Presidential Directive 51, which effectively gives the President unchecked power to control the entire government and to define that government in time of emergency, as well as the power to determine whether there is an emergency. The document also contains classified continuity annexes. In July 2007, and again in August 2007, Representative Peter DeFazio, a senior member of the House Homeland Security Committee, sought access to the classified annexes. Congressman DeFazio and other leaders of the Homeland Security Committee, including Chairman Benny Thompson, have been denied a review of the continuity of government classified annexes, at least as we know. In all of these actions and decisions, President George W. Bush has acted in a manner contrary to his trust as President and Commander-in-Chief, and subversive of constitutional government, to the prejudice and the cause of law and justice, and to the manifest injury of the people of the United States. Wherefore, President George W. Bush, by such conduct, is guilty of an impeachable offense warranting removal from office. Article 24. Spying on American citizens without a court-ordered warrant, in violation of the law and in violation of the Fourth Amendment. In his conduct while President of the United States, George W. Bush, in violation of his constitutional oath to faithfully execute the office of President of the United States, and to the best of his ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of his constitutional duty, under Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution, to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, has both personally and acting through his agents and subordinates knowingly violated the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution